I'm going to be talking to you about a pilot project that our team there have been implementing in Dinajpur, which is in the northwestern part of Bangladesh. When I visited earlier this month, it was very, very beautiful. Lots of paddy and people extremely busy planting paddy and looking forward to rains, and everybody in very industrious activity. So the first photograph that you can see is part of a day that the team had planned for me, where they wanted to give me an experience of the whole market system of a kind of local dairy market system in the Dinajpur area. So we started off by going to visit a village not far from a small rural town called Birampur. And I have to say, the first thing that really struck me was on the way there I saw very few women, and particularly driving through the town of Birampur, in all of the shops that you could see and everything, it was all men. And we drove to a very beautiful location in a very quiet, peaceful area. And we couldn't get close to the village because the bamboo bridge had collapsed. So we had to walk into the village, which was lovely. But we were met by a big group of men. So my heart was really sinking. I was beginning to wonder, where are these women dairy farmers that we're working with? But as we got to the village, suddenly this burst of colour and activity hit us. And there were all the women with their cattle, and they were bringing them to the village for a vaccination day. Mm-hmm. Now there were quite a lot of men because the ministry were there, but also the paravets. So these are people who are not trained vets in the conventional sense, but are working very well with the ministry and independently to provide all sorts of services and inputs to women dairy farmers. Mm-hmm. So in this picture you can see some of the cattle waiting to be vaccinated. Another thing that shocked me was how small most of them are, but a lot of these are milked.
So these are fully grown up?
Pretty much most of them, yes.
Cows? And
you can see our team leader in the background, Abdur Rob. He's wearing the blue fleece on the left. He's based in our Dhaka office, and he leads the Markets and Livelihoods programme mm-hmm. in Bangladesh. So this was a very interesting visit for him too. So the paravets, as I'll show you in the next picture, the guy with the scarf is one of the paravets. Under this pilot project, they've received more training and they've been improving their skills and their knowledge, and also we're helping them to work together in a forum, which I'll tell you a little bit about mm-hmm. Later on. But you can see from this woman here that actually the women are the ones who are the livestock keepers, and they milk the cows. They don't need land to milk the cows because the cows are virtually all tethered, and they feed them a variety of different feedstuffs.
And their husbands have any role in the dairy?
Not typically.
Market?
No, not typically.
So it's mainly women doing
Yes, it's mainly women. And in fact, the next slide is a lovely picture of a women's group. They're a dairy group, and they're fairly newly formed as a group, probably about 6 months. And to my left and right, there's the treasurer and the chairman. And I was extremely impressed with, I met 3 different groups, and all of them had an incredible amount of energy and vision for what they wanted to see in terms of the development of their dairy enterprises. One of the things that the project team explained to me is that these groups are not formal groups, they're just informal groupings of women who are involved in dairy and who want to come together for a variety of reasons. They come together to have learning sessions, they come together so that they can access markets better, so that they can get cheaper inputs. And this was a particularly encouraging aspect because it was very light touch. It wasn't about encouraging women to set up quite heavy structures like co-ops and so on. They were very informal groups, and it was really driven by the women wanting to improve their dairy business and seeing an opportunity.
How many women are part of that group?
Typically about 20 to 30. The biggest groups are around 30, the smallest groups are around 20, but that seems to be a number that works well. And it seems to be a good number for them to get together for milk collection points, for them to get together for learning sessions. And in fact, this next slide is a learning session. Now it looks very similar, but actually this is a different group in a different village. And they'd met together because one of the paravets had arranged to give them a demonstration on different feeding
for free
options. Yes, for free. Yes. Now, interestingly, somebody from a Bangladeshi feed manufacturing company was there, the regional representative, because obviously he's interested in what business potential there is in this particular area. So he had gone along as well, and they talked, as far as I could tell, because my Bangla's not that good, obviously, but you can see in the front of the photograph there's some Napier grass, and that's quite a new introduction, and Napier grass is particularly important if you haven't got access to a lot of land. And there are a number of small-scale farmers in the area who are starting to grow fodder and feed like Napier grass for sale to dairy producers who don't have access to their own land. So there are all sorts of other markets that are emerging. So the paravets, like the person who's standing behind this table explaining to the women different feeding regimes and options, is part of a forum, a paravets forum, and I had the real pleasure of meeting some of the forum members. And this is us in front of one of the shops belonging to the paravet who is on my right there. And so he has a shop where he sells all sorts of different kind of livestock health products and pharmaceuticals. You can see his sign above our heads there. This group arranged for us to actually have a sort of round table meeting, and we sat down together, and they were a very enthusiastic and energetic group of people to talk to. They had really seen that there's enormous potential in the dairy industry, and we're looking forwards at different ways of tapping into that potential. So I asked them about their ideas for the future, and they had many. Some of them I thought had a lot of potential, and some of them I suppose I was a little bit more concerned about, such as developing their own AI services. They'd, as a group,
AI is artificial
insemination. And in fact, one of the women in the previous group that I'd just shown you, who were having the feeding demonstration, I had asked I had asked a question about milk yields, and one of the women got up and told us all that she had 2 cows. One of them was an indigenous cow and one of them was a crossbred. The indigenous cow gave her about 3 to 4 litres of milk a day, which actually is pretty good. It shows that she's really developing her animal husbandry skills. And the crossbred gave her 8 litres of milk a day, so double. So she was really pleased with that. I asked her whether the crossbred cow was more difficult to look after, and she laughed a very knowing laugh and said that it was always falling sick, and she often needed to call the paravet out, and also she needed to feed it more. So the project team want to do more analysis on the net income position, because this group of paravets are extremely keen to see the dairy industry develop, and they really feel that improved genetics is the way forward. But obviously in a rural scenario like this one, we need to be extremely careful that the genetics improve at the same time as the level of knowledge and skills, and also all of the infrastructure within the market system to enable that to happen, and the women to actually make the most of that kind of investment. Otherwise the risks for the women farmers could be huge, particularly as if your crossbred cow dies from disease, then you've lost a pretty major investment. But as I said, I was really impressed with this group. They told me that on average they had 200 clients each, but they could easily go up to 500. So the project team are aware that this is a very good way to actually reach some kind of scale, because if you've got a forum like this one and there's 25 paravets and they're each reaching 500 farmers, then that's over 12,000 farmers in total, and you're talking about 60,000 beneficiaries. So this is a pilot project, and if you're looking at how you can scale up and reach some sort of scale within this market system, then the paravets are very important.
And the trends that they see in terms of number of clients is increasing? Is it a positive trend for them?
Yes.
What do they say?
Yes, they do. And in fact, one of the interventions that Practical Action team has been working with them on is their business skills. So actually understanding how to develop their own businesses. And they've been doing things like monitoring how many mobile phone calls they get a day, and actually seeing those increase because they've made more effort to sell their services and make their services available to a wider group of people.
Of course, there is a contextual factor here that is very important, and is the density of population in Bangladesh.
Absolutely. No? We continually talked within the project team about the Bangladeshi context and the fact that markets are very thick, as opposed to thin markets in many other places where Practical Action might work, like the Andes in Peru, for instance. In this context, you have a very large number of producers, very large number of consumers, and plenty of intermediaries and other actors like service providers. So that offers enormous potential, and what this project is doing is looking at how to tap into that potential. Because one of the challenges is that Bangladesh, the flip side of that is that they also have a very, very large number of rural poor. So whatever we do in Bangladesh, we need to make sure that we're going to have some sort of impact at scale. So just thinking about the market system, we've looked at one of the market chain actors, the producers, and we've looked at some of the service providers to those producers. But the producers need to link up with other market actors, And here we are in another village later on in the day, in the afternoon, at a milk collection session. And the man with his back to us, who's crouching on the floor, is the milk collector. He's gone to a women's group and he's collecting their milk. He goes daily. He's got a lactometer, so he's checking quality, and he's also measuring it using a half-litre measure. And the guy next to him is recording everything. You can see that Anis, who is standing next to me, he's our program manager, and I are busy asking him lots of questions while the women are waiting very patiently with their milk. It looks like the women are being very silent here, but I can assure you they're not. And they were very, very keen to engage with us and talk to us, and they appeared to me, at least, to be completely in control of what was happening, and it seemed very progressive, and it was a real privilege to be able to step into their world for a few moments.
Great.
So the milk collector takes the milk from the villages, collects from different villages and different groups, and it's sold mainly to processors. Some of it goes straight into the liquid milk chain, but in Bangladesh a very important market is processed milk, which gets processed mainly into sweets. And you can see us looking a little bit tired towards the end of the day with some of the processors in Birampur. And as you can see, they're all men. In the very left corner of this picture, you can see a small pot, a guy holding a small pot. He's actually a technical officer with practical action. His expertise is in dairy processing, and he's been working with the processors to help them get better access to improved technology, and is looking at local manufacture of different products like cream separators to help them diversify the products that they're producing and improve the quality of the products that they're producing. So this group of processors, I wouldn't really call them a group actually, because they're individuals and they are competitors with each other. And at the moment, the project team would say that there isn't really a sense of group, and they're possibly all a little bit suspicious of each other. But they are business minded and they do want to see their business grow. And we talked about that, and there is potential for them to send stronger price signals to the women farmers, because at the moment they all complain about lack of supply, so they want to increase their supply of milk.
Talking about the diversification of the produce and the new technologies that this expert on the left-hand side of the picture is looking at, who is promoting that process, and how are the women or other market actors involved in those decisions? And is it mainly driven by us, this process, or how is this?
Yes, I would say in this pilot actually we have been quite hands-on at this stage. The team organised the technology fair where they were just acting as facilitators, so they were allowing lots of different people to come together and explore different technology options and different products, particularly the hardware and the kit. But obviously with dairy processing, the software, the knowledge about how to do it is also absolutely critical. So there was a lot of dialogue, and it created an enormous amount of interest. So they're trying to act as kind of matchmakers, not get involved in the chain themselves, but to be matchmakers between providers of goods and services and the processors. And this is a processor actually in Dinajpur, so a much bigger centre. And you can see we're in the kind of the end market here. Most of them have their own kind of factories and processing areas, and then many of them sell to sweet shops or have their own sweet shops. And sweet shops in Bangladesh are actually a very important part of the kind of social fabric in towns. And it's like our kind of cafes, I guess, in England. Every culture has them. They're places where people meet and talk. And this processor is really, really keen to work with other market actors to enable him to increase his supply, because he sees an enormous market, but getting stable quantities of high quality milk is a major challenge. So we see a very good kind of market pull in this particular market system. This is a group of stakeholders who had been invited to come to a sort of evening dinner reception, which was intended to be quite informal. And I've included it because some of the actors who support a market system, who might be in the policy environment area, like who work for different ministries. We had representatives from the Ministry of Youth, for instance, and I think there's somebody from livestock there, quite a few people from regional banks, from dairy associations and so on, and actually a sort of conversation unfolded which showed that there was quite a lot of disagreement between some of the stakeholders, and it was quite a tricky one to facilitate. And so far the project have tended to take more of an approach to go for sort of bilateral discussions. And this kind of multi-stakeholder forum or market stakeholder forum has been more difficult to facilitate, I think. And I think the project team really have done a fantastic job in this pilot project in really understanding the market system and facilitating interactions between all sorts of different actors within that market system. But they recognise that there are still challenges at this level of facilitation. And so I wanted to kind of finish on a different picture, and get us back to the people who it's all about, the women farmers, and yet acknowledge that we can't work at this level, at the level of farmers only, if we want to have impact at scale. So we need to do both, and we need to have that vision of how we're going to work to create opportunities for many tens of thousands of women dairy farmers in this area of Bangladesh, because from what I've seen, certainly there's potential.